Hello and welcome. My name's Morag Gamble, and welcome to our final Wild and Kind Wednesday for June. This is our weekly series of conversations that's continued on since the Wild and Kind Festival that happened in May, which was a big celebration of permaculture because May is actually when International Permaculture Day happened. So if you're just joined now, my name is Morag Gamble and I'm calling in from the unceded lands of the Jinnabara and Gubbi Gubbi people here in southeast Queensland in a place called Crystal Waters Permaculture Village. So I'm seated here in the middle of a permaculture food forest in a permaculture eco village, and this is the Permaculture Education Institute. But now I'd like to introduce my guest for today, Liz Zorab. Liz is a great friend of mine who lives in Wales, and I've stayed with her several times. And she lives in a beautiful part of Wales and is the author of a couple of books, one of them being The Seasoned Gardener and another one called Grounded, both put out by Permanent Publications. She's also an avid YouTuber, and I noticed, Liz, that you've started up doing a whole new series, and so hopefully we can chat about that too. But the time of this session today, growing simple abundance. Why I thought about this as a topic for Liz is because this is what she does. She grows an amazing amount of food and shares it so beautifully in her books and in her YouTube and on radio, and really is finding ways to grow an abundance simply. And so it's my great pleasure to welcome you, Liz. Thank you for being here, Liz. Do you want to tell us, let's just begin where you are. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your place in the world and what goes on there?
I'm situated in sort of southwest Wales, which is wet. Wales is known for being very rainy. It's also quite a region, I'm not going to say mountainous, but it's on UK standards, it's mountainous. We have mountain ranges, but not huge, vast heights, just quite tall. And I'm about 3/4 of the way up one of these small mountains on a north-facing site on the edge of a wind farm. So it's dark, it's cold, it's windy, it's challenging. We have 4.5 acres. We've got a very small little cottage with incredibly thick walls. So today we are on day 2 of a heat wave here in the UK. And you wouldn't know it. In my house, it is cold. It's cold all year round. So I'm very grateful at the moment for having a cold house. And I have a veg garden, which is the size of a 10-rod allotment plot, which is a UK measurement. So it's a full allotment plot in the UK.
What does 10 rod mean, Liz?
It actually works out. A rod was a measurement way back when, and I think it was literally the length of a pole, because sometimes it's called 10 poles, but it works out at 250 square meters. That's the reality of it. So it's that sort of size. Then there's a small orchard with about 16 trees in it, a very traditional, they're quite spaced apart, and nothing else grows there other than grass. And then I have just over 1/2 acre of food forest or forest garden, depending on how you want to look at it. It's a forest garden that's got a lot of fruit and ornamentals in it, so it's 50-50. And then the rest of the land it's actually just grass, and we keep sheep, and we've got a few chickens. So it's what in the UK is called a smallholding.
And it is. I remember it being quite wet. There was a spot on the top, which is surprising to me. There was the top of your hill. We were squidging in the ground. And it was like oozing. It was definitely gumboot weather, that's
Absolutely.
for sure.
And that's about what's in the soil. So at the top of the land, it's very peat based. And as you come down the hill, it's a lot more clay, so that you still get a lot of water, but it does something different in terms of its drainage.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about this idea of creating simple abundance, because I'm dealing at the moment, Liz, with aging parents. And I'm trying to work out they introduced me to permaculture when I was a kid. It's like, how do we continue to create a simple abundance and gracefully age in place? And I know that you've experienced it's not about that you're getting older, but that you've had illnesses that you've had to deal with. And so, in order to create abundance, you really had to create a kind of way of growing that enables your energy levels to make the most of being able to do that. And I just wondered whether you could just speak a bit about that, because it hasn't stopped you. You've just adapted the way that you do things to make it
Absolutely.
possible.
So I'm just going to start by saying, obviously, I am aging as well. But I haven't found the magic formula to stay young. I became ill. Actually, I've had various different bouts of illness, and each time I've had to adapt. But the last one was a very serious issue with my blood pressure for about a year, but I didn't know it. And I was just finding it increasingly difficult to do anything in the garden. And so what I ended up doing was less and less, because I felt like it all needed to be tidy, or it all needed to be at least not have corners that are Instagram worthy, and all of those kind of pressures that we have as content creators and as people who offer ourselves up to the public to be scrutinized. And what I've actually now done is got, do you know what? I don't need a perfect garden. I don't need what other people think of as it should be like this. So I kind of got hold of those shoulds, threw them out the window, and went, what can I do? Not what should I be doing? And so I can do some weeding, but what I can do is I can prepare beds for food, so I can do that. Where I don't have the energy or the time to clear a whole bed, I'm just going, okay, I'm not going to worry about that. I'll plant in the bits that I've done. So what I've done is I've reduced the pressure. I've taken all the pressure of the norms, of the noise that you get in the background from people saying you should do this and you should do that. And I've gone out of what can I do and what can I do today? And I have broken my day down into really small chunks into, do I feel up to doing something? Yep. Go and do something. Do I still feel up to doing this? Yep. Do a bit more. Am I still up to this? No, that's okay. And I walk away from it.
Yeah.
I don't, there's much less pressure, and that they're not having to do things, and they're not needing every bed to look perfect before you planted it. It's been liberating.
Yeah.
It's been so uplifting.
We put huge pressures on ourselves, don't we, to live up to certain norms and expectations. You're right. I wonder too whether the type of things that you're planting, like the fact that you've got the forest garden area, like the amount of food that you're getting out of that with far
Yeah.
less work than veg beds, for example. Like, where do you find that the most abundance is coming from, on the place that you're enjoying the most in terms of return for your energy in creating these food
Fruit
systems?
trees, every time, knock the socks off everything else. And I know they do the best time to plant a fruit tree was 20 years ago. We planted ours 4 years ago, and we pull vast amounts of fruit, particularly from our peach trees, which are growing undercover here because of peach leaf curl. Sorry, the name of it went there. So it's a fungal infection that comes down in the rain. We have an awful lot of rain, and peach leaf curl can actually take a tree out in about 5 years. So we grow them undercover, so they don't have that stress. And we are producing, we're not, the trees are producing a huge number of peaches, which my job is then just to pick and to process them. So I pick, peel, freeze, pick, peel, preserve. And the apple trees are now starting to come into their own in the garden as well. So perennial trees, perennial veg have some place. Whilst I often tell people about perennial veg and they could be growing, I have to go with what we eat. And while I would love to say we eat all these perennial veg, actually we don't. We eat some. Over the last 10, 12 years, I love growing that thing, but I don't eat it. And those plants are allowed, but they're not allowed to take up precious veg beds in my veg garden. They go into the forest garden where they've got space to do their own thing.
Yeah, it's we can grow this, what, 30,000 different varieties of edible plants. And I think you're right. If you have a limited space or limited energy, limited time to really think about what is it that I really want to grow here and make that the focus. And the wilder spaces, the forest gardens, the other places, like you're saying, can be the places where we can there's so many different reasons to grow all these other things too, for their wildlife habitat, for the soil improvement, for the companion planting with the tree. There's so many other reasons than just our own consumption. That's not to say that they're not part of it. Maybe they could be medicines or flowers. I know flowers are a big part. Do you want to talk to us about your love of flowers and the role that flowers play in your garden?
So when I first started gardening, it was with ornamentals. And so they are my first love. I must say, closely followed by my husband. I have to add that bit. Honest. So when I first met him, I said, "Oh, you need to know I quite like gardening." Underplayed that quite a lot. But so I have this love of ornamental plants, and I feel like if I'm growing food to sustain my body, I also want to grow plants that are going to nourish my soul as well, which means that my veg garden tends to be a real mix. And I try and make each of my veg beds about 25% ornamentals. Or somewhere, hopefully, you might have a photograph of me in the garden. So I sent Morag some photos, and we're in the hope that we're going to find.
Which one is that? Liz in the Morning Sun? Should I do that one?
Yeah, let's look at that one. First of all, thanks to Hugh Richards for taking this. He took a couple of the photos here. But tucked in amongst these beds is an awful lot of food. It's just that it's the flowers that you can see immediately. And I want to walk into my garden and go, oh, yes, I want to hear the sound of wildlife. I want to hear the buzz of flying insects. And I want to see the spiders where go up first thing in the morning and there's the morning dew clinging to spiders' webs. It's just so pretty. So I want all of those things whilst also growing food for my family. And one of the things that I'm really honing in on this year is being careful, because there are plants I like to grow which are edible. And I like them because I like the process of growing them. But there's only one person in the house who eats them. So Mr. J is not a huge fan of brassicas. I love them. So I have to find a balance with what I love growing, and I love growing brassicas for all sorts of reasons. I like the neatness of the leaves when they first germinate, because they're all identical. It almost doesn't matter what type of brassica it is. They all come up looking the same. You look at it and go, yep, that's a brassica. You do have to be really careful to label things, because otherwise you're like me. You end up planting a whole load of stuff and you're not sure which brassica it is. But that's another story. And I love the whole, I don't know, I like the way brassicas grow. So I grow loads of annual brassicas because I like that process. But there's only so many I can eat. And I have to be careful that I don't then give over too many of the garden beds just for growing brassicas in it. And so what I do to feed my need to grow brassicas is I grow some that I grow under netting so that cabbage moth and cabbage white butterflies can't get at them, lay their eggs and eat on them. And then I plant a whole load more out in the open, either in that bit of garden or in the forest garden, that are effectively, they're sacrifice plants. And if I get a harvest from them, hurrah, but actually that's not the reason I'm growing them.
There was another picture that you wanted me to show just now while we're in the picture sharing mode, Liz. Let me have a look here. What about, here, this one here, I'm going to share this, the evening light picture, because it shows your cover there. So you can see how you do that, which I think is really helpful. So you have these little movable structures that you can move from bed to bed as you go.
They're even neater than moving them from bed to bed. Every bed has got tubes sunk into them. And then into those tubes, I put the hoops. So I actually just have a whole series of hoops with these tubes in the bed permanently. And I said the tubes are something as fancy as a child's trampoline that has been recycled to us, and we cut down the tubes so they're about 30 centimetres long, and then I knock those into the ground on each side of the bed, within the bed, not on the outside of it. The tubing has come recycled from a building site. It's MDPE piping, and then And so I can have 4, I think there's 4 in that photograph in a bed, but I could have more if I wanted to put more tubing in. And then the netting is a soft butterfly netting, so it allows pollinators in, but doesn't allow butterflies. But it means that I can actually have these kind of in any one of the beds because I set the infrastructure up as I went along.
Yeah, great. And so I noticed too in your beds there that all of the beds are just fully covered in things like full mulch and wood chips or something there. Can you tell us about your pathing structure and how that's a part of maybe your compost system, or like how does that work?
So the pathways have got wood chip on them. And it's actually interesting because I'm in the middle of doing this process at the moment. So when I created the garden, wood chip on the pathways, I effectively chop and drop onto the pathways. When we had ducks, they were allowed to wander through and dibble through the pathways in the late autumn and winter. Not one, everything is growing, and I don't want them to be eating things. But so they were dropping their droppings everywhere. And after 2, maybe 3 years, those wood chippings have broken down sufficiently. They've actually just turned into wonderful compost, which I then scoop up and put onto the garden beds.
Yeah.
Now, because I couldn't garden very much last year, this year, those pathways are pretty much just grass and weeds. And so I'm lifting everything at the moment and putting it into a compost heap to break down there rather than putting it on the garden beds.
I saw that video and you were lifting up a piece and you said, oh, that's so satisfying because a whole bit came up. And I wanted to mention that because when you set this up and the weeds do come, they do come up easy. And I find it's a much easier way to renovate a garden if it gets away, if you've got that basic bedding there to begin with. The roots don't seem to get in quite as much. But yes.
So when I set it up, I used a plastic membrane, and I'm in the process of lifting that now and replacing it with a cornstarch membrane, so it becomes a plastic-free zone. The cornstarch membrane allows more life to go up and down through it. So it won't be long term, it might not be as effective as a weed barrier, but they've been covered for nearly 5 years now. I feel like there's enough of an established pathway that it's going to be less of an issue. If I've got a thinner membrane on and new wood chips, I'll be able to manage that okay.
And I think it's really important to think about this whole, like the whole metabolism of your garden, that the compost, like in terms of thinking about growing simple abundance, not just, oh, there's the compost over there and then there's the garden over there. It's like it all is in the one sort of space. You have the wildlife garden, the compost, the vegetables, and then not far away are the fruit trees. And I think, I can't remember, what did you call it? Your beautiful hedge of your shrubbery. I keep thinking Monty Python when we're talking about your shrubbery, but you have this beautiful kind of shrubbery hedge. And I've really taken that on board when I came back home. I thought, I'm going to create a shrubbery hedge. And I have one all the way down my pathway here because it's
Brilliant.
this beautiful space where it's a place where all the little birds hang out. It's a place where the wildlife just congregate and then find their way into the other parts of your garden. And it's this permanent, beautiful hedge that creates some sort of structure. So tell us about your shrubbery hedge.
So the shrubbery hedge, so there's a kind of very formal hedge at the back of it of hornbeam. So it's just green leaves in the summer and then they go brown, and they actually, a lot of them stay on for the winter. So that gives me a kind of permanent backbone. And then it's an area that is, and it doesn't matter how big it is. In our last place, we did one that was 40 feet, 45 feet, so 15 meters. This one is more like, I can't work it out, probably double that in length. It's quite a long space, and it's 10 feet, 10, 12, 3 meters ish front to back. And it's full of things that you would call a shrub. So there's elder, and there's elder, there's ornamental cherries, but they could be edible cherries. I don't have those because I've got those elsewhere, and I particularly wanted to create a kind of avenue of cherry trees so that in the spring we had an avenue of flowers overhead. That's coming slowly. And then there's I specifically chose a whole load of shrubs that flower in winter and very early spring, that have almost insignificant flowers but are very fragrant. What I wanted was reasons to get outside and go and see them, because it's really easy here. It's to stay in all winter and to put my pajamas on mid-November and take them off again at the end of March. Not literally, but it's a metaphoric pajama wearing time. And it's just that I will hunker down. The light is very short number of hours in a day. We might only get 6.5 daylight hours, and it can get pretty miserable. So I wanted something that gave me a reason to walk to the very far end of our bit of land. Our land's long and thin rather than being a nice circle or anything. And so I wanted to have a reason that would pull me. So the things that flower in the absolute depths of winter are at the far end, which makes me walk down there. There's a viburnum. Gosh, that word nearly didn't happen. A viburnum that flowers in the winter. So lots of things that are winter flowering or smell amazing at the far end. And then nearer the house, not much nearer, but a little bit nearer the house, there's a lot of summer things. So there's roses, and there's St. John's wort and things that flower, and then the stuff that flowers in between as well. But the idea was to have something that was in flower all year round, something that was aromatic all year round, something that was sweetly scented all year round. And it's not somewhere that I go and hang out. I don't take a chair and go and hunker down and sit and read a book or anything there. But it is an area that I like to walk to and just spend a bit of time, just pause. And it's one of the things that I really like doing, is just having a pause in the garden.
And I think that's a really interesting design feature. When we talk about this in the permaculture design course, it's really thinking about, it's not just about designing to have food here, it's about how do you want to flow through your garden? And every one of us we have unique reasons for doing things, and to really understand what that is. So we design that in. I wanted to pick up on some of the plants that you mentioned, because you were mentioning witch hazel and St. John's wort, did you say? These are medicinal trees, I understand. Have you explored that much? Or because I feel like there's so many plants in so many different areas of your garden that have just such richness.
I haven't. So the thing, I've read a bit, and then I am actually, hand on heart, frightened of poisoning myself. I know that one could, yes, if one knew what you were doing, you could use them. So they're there, and I have the knowledge that if I ever actually learned it and got brave enough, I could do those things, and the plants will be well established and to be able to use them. But at the moment, no, they're there partly because of I want them as flowers, but partly because they're medicinal plants, but not because I'm using them yet.
Yeah, a guest who came on a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Anne Stobart, her particular focus. Yeah, get her to come over. And she seems to have some really great recipes in her book as well about, what was that? I think, here it is from when she was here. So anyone who didn't see that talk, she has this medicinal forest garden handbook.
I recommend that book. It is so good.
Yeah, so she talks about the medicinal plants and also how to use them as well. I was just thinking about what she was saying. I thought, oh, maybe you and Anne could get together. She's not that far away. She's down in Devon. She's just come up around the corner.
Really not that far.
No, it's not that far, not from an Australian perspective. So I wanted to just also talk to you a bit about your sense of, you don't just garden, you share about your gardening. And you do it through YouTube, you do it through your books, you're on BBC Radio Wales sharing about this. What is it about what you do that really compels you to want to share this out as far and wide as you can?
So actually, it was something that David Holgram was talking about when he spoke to you, was it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? And the way he phrased it absolutely hit home to me. So I wrote it down. So bear with me while I read. How about glasses?
While you do that, I'm just going to write the medicinal forest, Claudia, responding to your question, the Medicinal Forest Garden Handbook by Anne Stobart. There we go. Okay.
So David said, one of the things he said is how we should having a think about how do I want to be in service to the world or of service to the world? And I just went, that's what I do. You'd be amazed how often people say something and the penny drops. And I thought, that's what I do without having been able to put a label on what it was that I'm doing. So almost maybe since I was about 13 or 14, I've done volunteering. I've worked in the voluntary sector, in the community sector. I've worked with local communities, and I felt the need and the want to be giving, to be contributing. And I really do think you get from life, you get back what you put in. But putting in is also giving out. So I just feel this need to be able to share, and if people don't want to hear it, I don't mind. I'm not offended. I'm going to take umbrage. that is there. Some of it is I get very excited about things. And particularly after my parents died, when I can't ring them up and go, guess what happened in the garden? I now do that on a video. So you, Morag, and you and everyone else are being my person that I go to and share that excitement with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so some of it is about actually just in the core of me, I feel like that I'm not ascribing this to anyone else, but I feel like I have a duty to give to society and my local community and the wider community.
Yeah.
Just to be giving to them, whether that's sharing excitement, enthusiasm. Hey, guess what I heard? No, and if I've heard it, someone else has been sharing it, and all I'm doing is spreading that knowledge a bit more.
Yeah. And it's really quite simple, but it's profound at the same time, isn't it? It's like sharing that enthusiasm, that spark travels. When you share a spark, the spark sparks someone else, which sparks someone else, which sparks someone else. And I think you never know what's going to happen, but you know when you show up and speak in that way, that the gift is going to travel. So I noticed, Liz, in your YouTube, and I mentioned this right at the start, that so you've been doing YouTubing for a long time. And so there's a couple of questions around the YouTube. I noticed that you have a new frame for your YouTube, your current ones, like real gardening or something of that.
So it's real life gardening.
Real life
And
gardening. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, I felt the need to really clarify that what I'm doing is what I am doing. I don't have a team of people coming in. I used to have help with someone who came and did the mowing and the hedge cutting. He's retired, so now it's my husband who works 3/4 of the week. So he's not quite full time, but almost full time. So he will maybe do a couple of hours in the garden, but not in the garden. He'll do hedge cutting or trimming or mowing. So the ground keeping almost. One person in her 60s can achieve and not leave people feeling like I can't do enough, I'm not doing enough. And it's a little bit of hopefully an antidote to all the insta-perfect gardens, the AI, that pressure that we feel for everything to be perfect. And I get quite a lot of hate from people saying, oh, that garden's too much for you. And it's actually, I'm just trying to show you what realistically happens when you get to being in your 60s and your health isn't perfect and you've taken on this enormous piece of land because you felt like you had one big garden left in you. And this is the reality of what you can achieve. And there's very much, I just get so fed up of seeing these perfect gardens. And I know full well, like, all the rubbish is tucked away behind people because I've done it too. I used to do a live chat every week on my channel, and I'd pick all the washing up and put it down behind the kitchen work surface on the floor so that no one could see it. I'm not doing that anymore in my garden. You're going to see all that washing up, and in my case, that means that's the weeds, it's the stuff that's lying around, it's all the stuff that is part of life.
Yeah.
So I'm now just saying it's real life gardening.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Good on you. Like we was talking about before, the pressure to have this sort of perfection. And I think it, like you're saying, it makes it really real. And there's also seasons and cycles, both in the garden, but also in our own energy. And sometimes we're just taken away from it. And when we come back, it is going to be messy. And at the moment, my I'm going backwards and forwards to Melbourne. My mum and dad are they're in their 80s now and they need my care a lot more. So my spare time is spent going and looking after them. And so
Yeah.
perhaps I should take a leaf out of your book and start doing, because I haven't been in my garden as much because I think people don't want to see it because it's not the picture perfect garden. And
No, we really do. We
that's
really do want.
what am I eating? I still eat from it every day. There's food all over the place, but I don't do the tending for the Instagram, YouTubey sort of thing. So yeah, thank you for that, because I feel a bit emboldened by that perhaps. And yeah, the flat comes and it just has to go off because you're
Yeah.
right, it's reality. And
I remember the last time you came to stay and you were saying, oh, you're going to get back and it's all going to be really overgrown. And I said to you, please, can you video it
yeah, it did.
before you tidy up
Yeah.
so that we can see? Because for me, it's absolutely fascinating. You're on the other side of the globe in a completely different, almost opposite to us climate, and you grow things that are totally alien to our environment, and that is just it. To me, it's encouraging, and it's inspirational, and it's exciting because you've got all this stuff and it's, what is it? I don't even know what these foods are.
And
And
you
so,
know, sorry, go ahead, Liz.
and it's that thing of saying to people, if you're going to share it real, share the real thing, so
Yes.
that we can see really how it is.
And you know what I'm doing a lot lately? I'm actually partnering with the wildlife in the garden. So I have kangaroos and wallabies that come and nibble the little bits of grass. And I have out here, there's a little grassy spot just outside my office, and it's the Kangaroo Mothers Club meeting spot, and they nibble that. And then I have a little food forest. It's just outside here. And I was looking at that, thinking, oh, I really must get in there and tidy it up a bit and redo the swales in it and stuff. Anyway, I was just thinking that, and I started making friends with a bush turkey, a scrub turkey that was down there. I quite like him because my kids have guinea pigs, and the guinea pigs go around the garden and do the nibbling and keep the grass down, so we don't have to do any mowing or anything. And we quite often have snakes or goannas that come in. And anyway, the bush turkey comes in because the bush turkey likes to clean up the grain from the guinea pig. Sorry, this is a very long, convoluted story, but I'll
That's all
get to the point. So the turkey comes, scares away the monitor lizard and the snakes because it wants to be part of what the guinea pigs are doing. Anyway, so I started making friends with this scrub turkey, and he doesn't run away, but he doesn't dig up my garden either. But I noticed, I went down to Melbourne, I came back, and I thought my husband had started to make a big pile of mulch in the corner just here. He's doing some trimming of the trees, and it wasn't. It was the scrub turkey. He's been cleaning up underneath this food process. I looked and I thought, my gosh, you've been doing a lot of work. There's this mountain of material that he's turned into a compost heap because that's where he's going to lay the eggs. Oh, no, he's not going to lay the eggs. His partner's going to come and lay the eggs. And so I looked underneath this food forest and it's perfectly tidied up. He's scratched all the material out from the swale, so they're all dug out again. I just thought,
Nice.
done a better job than that. So thank you very much. And every time I see him, I just make a comment and say, I really appreciate the work that you've done there. It looks so good. Like partnering with them and finding ways to enjoy the space. And yeah, anyway, so that's been quite fun. And it's beautiful, the birds that have been pooping through the seeds of passion fruit, and they sit on the trellises and they poop the seeds, which makes the passion fruits the best passion fruit vines that I have. And so I've made a trellis that goes over my entrance. So as I'm coming home, I can just walk through and grab a passion fruit, go down and pop it in
Oh, yes.
yogurt and just thank you, birds. And so I like I'm really appreciating this partnership approach that they've got going on here at the moment. And they're very much part of like the whole permaculture thing is like everything gardens. And so how can you be one of those gardeners in that whole system and being the gardening? And I really, yeah. And that's how I'm enjoying not trying to feel stressed about, oh my gosh, I haven't done that job. It's like, oh, something's going to be tending to that. And lo and behold, it does. And so that's part of that simple abundance as well. I'm trying to work out what are the things that grow because they're just thriving in this space? What are the things that will continue to flourish and produce abundance? At the moment, I've got bananas hanging off the tree. I've got blood oranges and
Oh,
pink
nice.
grapefruits and limes and lemons and Washington navels and turmeric bursting out of the ground and like all this.
Fine.
Honestly, I didn't. It's all of the plants doing it. and
Yeah.
and the forest garden, the food forest system, which is why I think setting up these sorts of systems, thinking about aging gracefully in place or being in the sandwich generation, as we're calling it. Just as of last week, I stopped having 3 teenagers. My daughter turned 20, but 3 teenagers and two 80-year-old parents. There's a lot to tend to, as well as my work and what I do in the world. And going easy is a really good strategy. I think that growing simple abundance is really what I thought was important to talk about today, because we
Yeah.
can put a lot of stresses on ourselves thinking when we have to be perfect. Whereas that is,
Can I ask you a favour, Morag?
yeah.
Could you, at some point in the next week or so, just do a quick swizzy around your garden with a camera and either take photos or do the video? It would be lovely to see all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll do that.
That would be really
Yeah,
nice.
I will.
I did a bit of a clearing up in the garden. So I did one of those kind of 20 minutes. I did 2 lots of 20 minutes of lifting up weeds, like pulling up weeds. And I disturbed the home of an almost enormous toad this week. So tonight's video, you'll get to meet this big toad. Big by my standards. He sat in my hand.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
And,
Yeah.
and it made me think, okay, I've done this tidying up and it looks great. But what I've actually done is ruined his home, and he was going to be eating slugs and bugs and other things. I think, yeah, was that such a smart move? Should I have just left the weeds there?
Also, a lot of the things, the little shrubbery bushes, often things that are fully gone to flower from the vegetables, or perhaps some weeds that are coming up in places. I noticed that they're the places where the little fairy wrens hang out. And the little fairy wrens, I don't know if you have them, the tiny little birds with these tails that go up and they dart around the garden. They're insectivorous birds. So all the little birds love to have all this shrubbery there. And I was watching them in my garden. They have these beautiful, the ones that I had this time, they had the beautiful blue-breasted fairy wrens. And I was watching them darting around the garden, sitting on the side of the brassicas, picking off little pests and popping around everywhere. And I thought, there we go. I don't even have to do anything about that. They're attending to that. The thing that I did notice, that I went for a bike ride this afternoon and I was so happy because I saw 3 butterflies, but I'm not noticing as many butterflies. I wonder, all of you who are listening here today, have you noticed a lack of butterflies in your neighborhood? I would expect that here, I live in an eco village surrounded by forests, and I've got this forest garden. I barely ever see butterflies anymore. I remember times when there was butterfly migrations going over the mountains. I had to drive so slowly because every time they hit the windscreen, oh, sorry, oh, sorry, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
There's so many butterflies. Now I'm lucky if I see a handful in a month. And I just am so saddened by that. So I'm loving to see that people are seeing some. Was that yes, Anne, that you're seeing lots, or yes, that they're gone? There's a yes, actually making sure that, yeah, yes, they're gone. I think how can we be growing more in our food gardens? So simple food abundance, but simple abundance for all life. I think that's the thing, isn't it? That's that everyday activism of gardening for all life and not really seeing it as being just for us. And I think to me, that's such an important principle of growing, of being a tender of a garden and a steward of a place.
Morag, do you want to share the photograph? I think I shared one with you with butterflies.
Oh,
So
they're
this
gorgeous.
is, yeah, aren't they lovely? So this was 3 years ago in the vegetable garden. This is a plant called agastache. I think people also, it might be called Korean mint, I can't remember, but it's agastache, and the variety here is black adder, and it's got peacock butterflies and a comma butterfly. She says, is that a peacock? Just look at the picture, it's peacock butterfly. What I have noticed is how few there are. I'm sort of thinking, do I even need to net my brassicas this year because there are so few butterflies? But it's also making me realise that my garden isn't butterfly friendly at the beginning of the summer. So it's not butterfly friendly. I am seeing some, and I'm seeing a few moths, but not like I would want to, not as many as I would want to.
Yeah.
And I remember as a child and even in my teens, if you did a long drive, you'd have to literally wash the number plates, the registration plate on your car and wash your windscreen because it would just have so many insects splattered on it.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's you notice if an insect hits the window.
Yeah.
The UK is hugely nature depleted,
Yeah.
more so than anywhere else in Europe.
It's an insect apocalypse, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I think it just really does bring into our attention how important it is that our gardens, our food gardens, whatever space that we have, a community garden, a school garden, a neighborhood garden, down if you're part of a community reforesting project, to really find ways to think about how to tend to this conversation here. And as Christine was saying there too, yeah, many of the outdoor lights at night, and I know some cities are really starting to pay attention to this, thinking about what kind of different light systems they can have at night time to make it less problematic for them. But it's huge. So yeah, oh great. Cherry Bomb just said you're creating seed bombs. Fabulous. Yes. That so whatever we can do to tend to that, I think. Making sure, like you just said then, to make sure that there's flowers all year round, or to really think about what are the local native species for the whole season. And so after a while you'll start to get those self-seeding happening, but we can help to accelerate that regeneration process or the restoration process to bring that back into being. I wanted to ask you, so you speak on BBC Gardening Wales. What
Yeah.
questions do people mostly ask you about?
Yeah, I've been doing this for 4 years now, just coming up to my fourth anniversary. And when I first started, people asked, what can I spray? How can I kill? How can I get rid? And now they say, what can I plant with? What can I add to? How do I cope with?
Ah,
But the language of the questions has changed, which has
that's
been
so interesting.
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
With a kind of a monthly, we don't need to get rid of this, we need to work a way around it. Do you actually need a lawn that big, or can you add an extra border? Can you leave some of the grass to grow longer so that we can support this wildlife? So without being too prescriptive, without telling people that they should, I have been suggesting to people that they might be like to grow more in tune with nature. And some people just say, how do I deal with moss in my lawn? And first question, is the moss actually a problem? Are you going to be playing bowls on your garden? Is it a bowling green? Is it a golf course? Because if not, maybe you can actually deal with some moss in your garden. So the first question is, do you actually need to get rid of it? Then I will try and give a manual how to get rid of it. So it will be you can walk all over your garden with a fork and make holes and fill the holes with sand, or just leave them and it will aerate it a bit or improve the drainage. So everything I'm doing is just trying to not, the first response isn't go and get something out of a packet. And it's getting better. Either that, or the people who want to use the packets aren't going to ring and ask because they now know.
But I think it's a beautiful shift that you've noticed. It's a subtle shift that's happened over time. I also feel like there is a shift of understanding about regenerative food systems and regenerative agriculture. But that reflects that. That's BBC Gardening Radio,
Yeah.
and that's like mainstream media, BBC, and there's a shift on that. So that's very cool. That's really
this year in particular, when Gardener's World BBC television programme on a Friday evening, and Monty Don is the nation's head gardener, in inverted commas, and everything, they started using permaculture techniques and terminology, which I've been really pleased to see, but I was also really surprised. I was like, wow, excellent. So they're bringing in ideas like chop and drop. I think I'm a bit surprised it's taken so long to not just pick it all up and take it off and burn it on the fire or shove it on a compost heap. There is now chop and drop happening. There are now ideas of swales being introduced. That just bit by bit, things are coming, and it's all an integrated gardening and lots more discussion about, do you have, like I do, a veg garden that is a mixture of both, or do you have purely vegetables. Monty Don was saying he grows it with just veg because that's what he prefers. And it was, yeah, no, I get that. If it's your preference, don't be having someone else telling you what you should be doing. But he does explain this is why he does that and that other people do it differently. And I'm so pleased that there's this kind of opening up of ideas.
People like that of saying that, because a lot of people listen to influencers, and I really like that too in Australia. Similarly, our Gardening Australia, ABC Gardening Australia folk are all pretty much permaculture people as well. And so even though they're not saying it out loud most of the time, although sometimes they do now, it's there, the whole thing, it's there.
Yeah.
So that feels...
Do you love it?
Do you get to see it there, do you? Can you
Oh,
get...
I watch it on YouTube.
Ah, okay, great. Yeah, wonderful. Excellent. I wanted to ask if anyone had any questions for Liz. Feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can pop up your hand and I can bring you in as well. I just wanted to make sure people knew about your books too, Liz, while questions are coming in. So you have this one, The Seasoned Gardener, and the other book, and I couldn't find it just to put my hand on right then, Grounded. Have you got a copy of you? And then you also have a garden planner as well, don't you?
I do have a garden planner. Yeah, so it's a garden planner and journal. It's mostly blank pages for you to write on.
Yeah, great.
With then just some little words of encouragement on most pages and some planting guides which are applicable across, I'm not going to say all the world, but most of the world, because it will talk about early summer or late summer. But obviously, if you're in a tropical place or a subtropical place, you might have to adjust.
Yeah.
Because obviously, early spring, late spring. And so, yeah, so that's available.
And I'm going to drop your website into the chat as well. I sent it with the links. Here we go. This is Liz's website, and you can find out more about Liz there, and also find out about her books. And also, I dropped earlier her YouTube channel, so I'm just going to drop that again in case you missed that. So this is for everyone, just so they can find you. Yeah,
YouTube channel's been going almost 10 years. There's well over 1,000 videos. The first, maybe 500, were daily. I just did a video a day, and you just came along with me with whatever I was doing. And some of them are like 10 minutes of me trying to fit 4 pieces of glass and bits of metal together to make a cloche. Some of them are, how on earth do I create a gate out of recycled material? And other ones are like, oh, look, I found this bug, or today we're going to go harvesting. It's literally taking people along with me as I'm learning and exploring and getting excited about what's going on in the garden.
And your latest series, is that a weekly series now?
Yes. So weekly on a Wednesday evening for us. So in about, where are we? 10 hours time. So tomorrow morning for you. And that's a much more follow along, but it's there's also some learning stuff as well. If people don't know what I'm doing, I link back to videos that I've made in the past that were how-to videos as a kind of for people who are still learning those processes.
It's a hugely rich YouTube channel, so if anyone's looking for practical tips and inspiration, go and dive back in through Liz's YouTube. And there is a question here from Claudia in Sweden. She's saying, Liz, if a plant is bee friendly, is it also butterfly friendly?
Not always, but mostly. It's unlikely to harm a butterfly, but butterflies are very much designed to be able to feed from a specific shape of flower. And it might be that different butterflies have different, same way that bees do, have different adaptations to the flowers that they can access. Mm-hmm. But if you want a butterfly friendly flower, you want something that's got lots of small flowers that they can easily access, or that they've got big open flowers. So those lovely roses that look almost like a cabbage are almost useless because insects can't get into them until they're very open. If you want a nice rose, you're just going to get one with 4 or 5 petals that will, or maybe just 10 petals. That's the things that are quite open.
Yeah, often the flowers we get in nurseries are very changed, aren't they, for human needs as opposed to being wildlife friendly.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's a,
I hope that helps, Claudia.
yeah. There was also a question, or I don't know if it was a question, it was a comment about your articles and your that you write in a magazine. Can you talk just a little bit about where you write, where people can follow along with your articles that you write?
Yeah, in the past, I've written for Permaculture magazine, so that goes out globally. And I'm currently writing for Amateur Gardening magazine. So I write fortnightly for them. So that's every 2 weeks. And that mostly focuses on ornamentals. But again, I've brought in ornamentals for wildlife, ornamentals that will help you with natural pest control. So feeding in the same let's work with nature messages. So once a fortnight, Amateur Gardening magazine.
Isn't that one of the oldest gardening magazines in the UK?
It is the oldest gardening magazine in the world.
In the world. Oh my
In the
gosh.
world. It's 142 years it's been going.
Wow. Wow, that's
Yeah.
phenomenal. I don't know.
I feel really lucky to be part of that team, actually. It's a great team to write with, and I get not an entirely free rein, but I get a pretty clear free rein in terms of how I want to express things. So we've just done, sorry, I've got them nearby, not because I was going to promote them, but because I was doing something else with them. So the one at the beginning of June was a wildlife special. And so my article in that was literally 8 of the best shrubs and plants to encourage wildlife into your garden.
Oh, fantastic.
And
Yeah.
it's just, I'm really enjoying writing those
So
actually.
I think the key thing what you're doing there is rather than preaching to the choir, you're taking the ideas to where people are interested in gardening and bringing them into this sort of like on BBC and in that the Gardeners magazine and really trying to open up the conversations there. And I think that is a really powerful strategy. And two, not saying you should do this or it should be like this and not making people feel like, oh, I'm doing it right. But it's like an invitation to come and be part of this. And I think this is a really beautiful approach, Liz. It's such a wonderful invitation to just explore differently.
That was such a nice way of putting it because I describe it as sneaky permaculture.
I think we can,
It's
everyone
nice.
who's here, there are so many different ways that we can communicate about this work. And it doesn't have to be this is permaculture and this is what you have to do, or this is how you should. It's just putting a lens on something and just opening up a slightly different conversation that's facing towards what that, whether it be in, could be in health or built environment or in education, or it could be anything. It's like just crack open a little bit more of a lens to see into that space. And oh, I hadn't thought about that before. Just come on in and have a look a little bit more.
And I
What have we
think
got?
people are doing that with regenerative agriculture now, aren't they? And looking at ways that they can bring snippets into their garden
Yeah.
rather than it being like it's a huge agriculture thing. It's like, how do I turn that into horticulture? How do I
Yeah.
turn that into a people level,
Yeah.
accessible in my garden thing?
There's another question here from Claudia. Hello again, Claudia. Can Amateur Gardening Magazine be found online, Liz? For
Yes.
us not in
Yeah.
the UK to read your articles there.
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, just look up Amateur Gardening Magazine and I'm sure they'll have all the details on that.
And the other thing is that 3 months after they're published in the magazine, I then publish them on my website.
Oh, there we go. So you can find all of her articles previously already there. So that's a good tip. I see we've gone to the top of the hour. How did that happen already? So I hope everyone's found the links that I've dropped in there, and I'll drop them also in a follow-up email with a replay of By the Farm and the YouTube. And I haven't got the link handy for the amateur garden, but you'll be able to Google that. I just also did want to drop in the link here because this is our continuing July series of Wild and Kind events. So please do come along for that next week. Luby McNamara will be joining us. John Seed, Deep Ecologist, will be joining us. Pippa Chapman, who you probably know, Liz, from,
Yeah.
is she in, no, she's not in Wales, she's in England. She'll be talking about food forests. And Afshan Omar, who is in Malawi, and she does the hospital gardens. And she spoke at the festival as a panel, and there was a lot of people who wanted to find out more about her particular garden. So she's going to dive into that. So thank you so much, Liz. It's so great to see you. It's been way too long since we've had a good yarn. So it's been
Yes.
just lovely to do this with you. Yeah. And thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's always so great to dive into this because it's you just make it so real. That's it. It's like we do what we can where we are with what we've got, with the capacity we have. Sometimes a year it's just not possible. Other times a year it is. And that's all okay. We can get hung up with stuff, but if we tend to showing up the best of our capacity where we can and then speak up as much as we can, write it, go on radio, YouTube it, just whatever we can to just pass the gift, then that's beautiful. So thank you, Liz. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Mm. All right, take care, everyone. It's wonderful to have your company here. I hope we'll see you again in some future conversations. Stay in touch. Go and sign up to Liz's YouTube and check out what she shares. And yeah, catch you all next time. Take care. Bye.